I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. Thank you all for joining me today. We are going to be doing just a quick overview, not so quick, but we'll see. We're going to do an overview of trial day one for Sarah Boone. And I want to speak specifically about male victims of DV, the role of likability, credibility, and accountability. Because I do think that juries are looking to see if an individual is credible. I do think likability can play a role in how the jury sees things. And I had the opportunity to be a guest on Surviving the Survivor last night. Please know that I have linked that over on the community tab. So if you missed that, please head over there. I'm sure that we'll do another collab in the future, and I will confirm with them beforehand if I can connect my stream and if I can just stream it to my stream. Pretty Lies and Alibis. So she connected her audience and did that. This was my first time there. And y'all, there was so much there was so much love in the chat. I so appreciated you all that were there and everybody that goes back and watches later because uh, it can be so that was my first time there. And it was a really cool experience, and I will leave that there. Trial day one. The prosecution is moving at lightning speed, and I like that. So it was hard for me to get into the Karen Reed trial because it was so long. Something that could have taken an hour was like 3 to 4 hours or like five. I don't know. Like everything was dragged out, and people were asked obvious questions over and over. And so Surviving the Survivor. Y'all know me and my ADHD. When I see questions, I want to, and I know y'all correct it in the chat, but it's my brain. What is STS? It's Surviving the Survivor. Joel was out. He was actually driving back from Orlando that night, and his wife was the one that hosted last night. It was super awesome. I was glad to be there. Okay, back to Sarah. Back to justice for George. And I do think the jury is going to watch her behavior. So this whole time while people are talking, now it's understandable for a defendant to be taking notes. It's understandable for them to want to have an active role in their case. In my opinion, I think Sarah, she is trying to act like a lawyer, and it is coming across with the jury, and we'll see what happens with this. So the sound for the opening was very difficult. I am not going to play all of it, but there were some key parts of the prosecution's opening that I did want for us to play and talk about. And this is the part where he's going over what Sarah has said. He's just pointed out the fact that the bottles of wine that her and George were drinking, they were not regular bottles of wine, that they were actually double the size of a typical bottle of wine. So when she says they shared one bottle of wine, it's really more like two. And so let's listen to this part. Once again, the sound. So if I need to adjust my volume, just let me know.
So we were just having wine, enjoying each other's company. At one point we play hide and seek. She says she didn't zip it up all the way. There was enough room, in her words again, there was enough room for his little fingers to get out. We were still having a good time and whatever. And basically, Mr. Torres is stressing out about jobs, his ex-wife, about money. And so they're just doing puzzles and doing things to keep his mind off of it, doing art, playing with dogs, dancing with the dogs, playing hide and seek. We were always trying to outdo each other where we could find each other the best. When they started playing hide and seek, she went up to the shower and then got tired of hanging out in the shower and came down, and that's when she found him playing around in the suitcase. We both thought it was funny. I'm going to zip you up. Two little fingers could stick out. And she went upstairs thinking, he'll get out, we're going to have sex and go to sleep and call it a day. It was a good day. She insists that they had wine, but we're not drunk. You will be able to assess that for yourselves when you hear the recording she made. No ill will between us last night. Last argument, maybe last week. Don't really argue. We came home, drink, smoke, did art, listen to music, play with the dogs. We drink what we can afford. We used to be able to afford liquor, but now we can only afford wine. And that's how that day ends with the police. She goes and sleeps and stays at her ex-husband's house the night of February 24th and 25th. What they are doing, and by they I mean the Orange County Sheriff's Office in part, that's when they discovered the two videos that I just described for you. And there's other things in the phone, which I will discuss with you in a little bit. But she's summoned in for another interview, and she sits down and gives another.
So I want to skip ahead to when he starts talking about what else is on the phone. Let me see if this is where it is. Because she's messaging someone at her phone number is messaging things to one of George's brothers.
I've been good. She describes that he comes at her all the time. He comes at me. So it's either I flee or I try to go upstairs and go to sleep. That's usually what it is. I don't know if you talk to Brian, her husband, about any of that, but most of the time I flee and I go over there. There's a discussion about why she stays with him, and you'll hear that for yourself. She will say that she doesn't really want to drink. She just takes an occasional drink. She drinks to placate him, Mr. Torres.
I don't believe that.
She says that you're going to see phone videos of Mr. Torres smashing her TV in the past, like a month earlier. You may see that too. But she doesn't get drunk. When she drinks, she likes being non-compos mentis, her words, not mine, having her wits about herself.
I forgot to grab my Bungo cards, but wow. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna have to pull it up over here so we can see what all we have. And the Bungo cards, the reason why I did this, it was just this is a hard case, a hard trial. So as we're watching, as we're listening, it just gives us something to focus on. It gives us something to come back. This is over on the community tab, and I believe that there haven't been a lot of objections, I don't think. I don't know. So yesterday I worked all day but I was able to catch I think almost all of the testimony yesterday, but I was going in and out of clients. And so I do think that alcoholism or being drunk came up, definitely technical difficulties. We're going to get to our feisty witness. We had at least one. Uh um we have already had hide and seek, and Sarah is smiling at her attorneys. I don't know that she's quite smiled at the camera yet. Um, we'll have to see when we watch the other witness. We'll have to see if he rolled his eyes. And Sarah is definitely being portrayed as the victim in this case. And once again, technical difficulties. We've definitely had those, and we've had puzzles, games, good day. We've had that. Wine has already been mentioned. Wine and alcohol have already been mentioned. Brian testifies, so we've already had that one. The prosecution is bringing up the fact that she said it was an accident, but I think the defense also kind of said that she did not intend for him to die, which kind of makes it an accident, which makes it difficult to say self-defense, but okay. And then we have non-compos mentis. So we do have that on the cards. Once again, this is on and there's no like winner. Does that make sense? So I did these just because I have a weird sense of humor. And so this was just for us she made the request. So we weren't officially starting until opening statements. So all the stuff she did before. So the pretrial motions, we didn't officially start. I'm pretty sure she is going to make a request. And I apologize. On my last video, I cut the video before the judge cut off the fact that the state or the judge was not going to be the one to provide her with snacks, or the state was not going to provide her with anything above and beyond what is typical for inmates, which would be their bagged lunch that includes cookies and all those things. And so Yes. All right. Let's get back to the testimony. So the prosecution's opening. Let's get back to that.
Then she gets to the
I also have this on 1.25 speed. That's the way my brain works. If people don't like that, I have the link to the original video down in the description.
hide and seek again, and describes that they've played it 3 times before, but had never zipped one another shut in it before. And they were really just running out of places to hide because it's just a townhome. She does not remember, according to her, she does not remember taking any photos or videos of the night's events. At this point, they ask her, well, would you like to see it? And she says, I can't watch this. I flipped them over, and that's where it was. Guys, this is killing me right now. That's why I flipped it over between the 2 videos. I didn't do anything intentional. Discussion over whether he had enough room to get any of his fingers out from the zipper. My intention was not to leave him there. We both got in there. Both of us were in there. When she went upstairs, my plan was not to, quote, he'll be up here any minute. My plan wasn't to leave him in the suitcase. Why is all this going on? It's the drinking. That's what it is. It's the drinking. I thought he was okay. Guys, that's how we were with each other. Nobody understands our relationship. This whole suitcase thing never happened before. Though she described it happening before. I'll never drink alcohol again.
And that's where, as I mentioned last night on Surviving the Survivor, throughout this entire process, Sarah has made it about her. And I think she's going to attempt to show grief and remorse at the loss of George because I think she knows she needs to. I just wonder if it's going to come across genuine or if it's going to come across forced. Because I think the person that she's the most concerned about is herself. To me, she's never once shown an ounce of grief or remorse, true grief or remorse for George. Anytime there was like an inkling of it, it seemed like it was more about her getting sympathy and them feeling bad for her and how bad this is for her. But to me, that's what's been lacking for me personally as I've sat back and watched this case. Let's keep going.
She insists that she has no injuries on her. And you don't have to take her word for it because they took photographs of her and there were no injuries on her. She insists over and over that there was no violence that day. It's like, okay, we're in a good place right now. They ask her about saying fuck you to Mr. Torres. Well, that's just being playful and having a good day. Everybody's having a good day. I didn't touch him, nor did he touch me.
That's what she said.
Her words.
And a domestic violence expert, so a DV expert might say that's a person that's in a toxic relationship. They might lie about what's really happening. I do believe that they had a back and forth where arguments, their norm upsets other people. So what maybe was normal in their relationship, their poor neighbors are having to learn how to tune out their arguments. And I am going to play portions of the neighbor's testimony. I thought some interesting things came out and I want to talk with you all about it.
What else is found on her phone? There's a conversation between Mr. Torres' brother, and again, nobody knows who's using these phones at the time text messages are sent in these records that you're going to see. But it's indicated that there's a communication between one of the decedent's brothers and the owner of the phone that was taken that belongs to Ms. Boone. The text from the brother is, yo, my daughter told me what you did, Sarah. I don't want you around any of my daughters or nieces, nephews. And that's Christmas 2019, just under 2 months before this event. She replies, or the person using her device at this time, ugh, your quote unquote dad hit me in the face. The next text is, hide and seek, I shall.
Now, okay. So he's reading it with his tone on it because so texts take away tone. So you don't know a person's tone when they send a text, but I could see Sarah comes off vengeful to me. Like I could see it coming off that way. I could see her trying to explain it away in a different way. And I do think she might try to present a different explanation for that when that evidence comes in. I think it'll kind of be like Robert Tellis, where he was keeping track of all the evidence he didn't like. And then when he got on the stand and had to give narrative testimony, he was trying to explain to the jury why the evidence was wrong and why his new story, that why they should believe that.
January 13th, there's another heated discussion. She describes it on January 13th in a text to Mo, the brother again. It's a Torres thing. Boo. Sends a picture. Keep the fugly creep out too. It's still fugly. Lose. The brother responds, please do something with yourself, Sarah. God bless you.
And I think so this comes off like a smear campaign to me. This comes off like a person wanting everybody else to be against the other. So I think she desperately wanted George to be isolated. So he was still close to his family. He talked to the one brother regularly. And I think she wanted the family on her side. And I do wonder if any of the psychologists are going to talk about triangulation, how sometimes in toxic relationships, the person tries to change the narrative and get everyone else on their side against the other person. And to me, that's what I see and hear when I take a look at this. And in the interview, there seems to be a lot of flipping the script. And I do think when she's cross-examined, I I I do think that she's going to try to make things look good for her. I think it's gonna be hard, because this just doesn't make sense. It doesn't, and it's gonna be hard for her to get the jury on her side, I think. Now, she overestimates her intelligence, she overestimates her ability to relate to others, in my opinion, because people that know her well do not like her. And she tries to be chummy, like, you'll see her talking with the guards, and you'll see her kinda talking with people, and these people are just doing their job. They're just doing their job, and sometimes they might laugh with her and everything, but they are just trying to do their job, and that's where I personally get the feeling of covert narcissism versus a malignant narcissist, where they are repulsive from the minute you see or meet them. She can come off kind of, I don't know, like, she might be charming. She might have this way about her that draws people at first, but then when things don't go her way, I do think she can attack. That's just my personal things from what I've heard. It seems like she can flip on people.
The defendant's response, and bless you and all of you too. I'll get, in all capitals, rid of him. Then it'll be, in all capitals, better. Ugh, Torres, referring to Mr. Torres.
So I missed that the first time I watched this, her talking about getting rid of him. The defense, to me, they are letting Sarah completely control the narrative, and I think that is incredibly, but that's how they're getting through this case. So, Juan Torres is George's brother, and he's the last person to talk to George, and he testified. He seemed incredibly nervous. It is very hard to get up and speak, and imagine he's been waiting for this day. He's been waiting for justice for his brother for 4 years, almost 5. It'll be 5 in February, I believe, because this happened in February of 2020. And so it'll be 5 years in 2020, February 2025. And I'm sure there were nerves, there were emotions. He hasn't seen or spoken to Sarah, and to sit in front of the person who's charged with this crime, who you likely believe is responsible for your brother's death, that is going to bring up a lot of emotions for anyone. And I think he handled it well. I think when they asked him about how many siblings he had, I wonder if he was giving an answer. So, like, when you're on the stand, sometimes what you hear and what was asked, there can be a difference there. And I think it was Emily D. Baker that pointed out, or it might have been Tanika's 2 cents. I watch all the streams. So I've watched the Lawyer You Know's coverage. I've watched everyone's coverage. I haven't gotten to Uncivil Law's coverage yet, but he could have been thinking about his surviving siblings. He could have been thinking, I don't know exactly what he was thinking about, but it did sound like he was just because he said 6 or 7, but because I've heard that there are maybe 10. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true. And he lived close to them. He tried to not go over too much because of just how things were with Sarah and George. He did not get along with Sarah, and he heard Sarah in the background yelling, and she sounded upset when they spoke at 7:30 on February 23rd. And we're thinking something escalated between 11 PM and midnight on the 23rd based on the testimony of the neighbors. Something happened around that time. And I don't know if it was because to me, Juan was saying that his brother didn't sound completely intoxicated at that point, so that maybe there was more drinking that happened after 7 PM. Because he also didn't think Sarah sounded completely drunk either. So I thought that was interesting. They had somebody from Publix confirm that, the receipts, so a manager from Publix confirmed that. Ooh, and then, I think a 911 operator. Yes. I think somebody mentioned her shirt because she had a really nice shirt. But then we get to Vincent. He gave really great testimony and just talked about how loud things would get with George. Oh, and he couldn't say who was yelling or arguing with who. Like he just heard a commotion because they were the next door neighbors to George and Sarah. And he mentioned that he didn't really like them that much. Like, so it sounds like nobody really like liked them that much. All right. So this was one of my favorite witnesses of the day, Brandon Moats. Brandon, I, okay, we're just gonna play it.
State and spell your name for the record for us.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Moats, BRANDON MOATS.
Thank you. Mr. Catch-Tor, you may inquire.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us,
And I'm sure that he was likely like, because he likely overheard George's last moments. Does that make sense? Like you were next door to somebody that was unalived. Like, so that would naturally bring up some emotions. You are now dragged in to a second degree capital M trial because you live next door to Sarah Boone. And that would naturally bring up things. Both Brandon and his other roommate, they both kept it so factual. Like they just, if they didn't know, they weren't trying to speculate about anything. Like they were just like, this is what I heard. This is what I saw. It is what it is. And I appreciated that. To me, that makes a witness sound more credible when they keep it to the facts. Now, expert witnesses give their opinions. They just live next door. And so they're going to give the facts. And I thought he did a great job. We're going to go through this.
how it is that you knew Sarah Boone?
I moved into the apartment next door to her when I was in college.
And so when was that you were in college?
I would have moved down here in 2019 and would have been there until like 2021, 2022.
So she was your neighbor at Tealwood Apartments, is that correct?
Yeah, it would have been Tealwood back then, yeah.
And did you have any roommates back then?
Yes, I was rooming with Vincent Battaglia.
And during that time, what were you doing?
Like,
as far as work and school? And
I was just going to school. During the time of this, yeah, I would have just been going to school. I don't think I would have had my job yet. I was just a student.
Did you have much interaction with the defendant or with Jorge Torres in this case?
Honestly, I avoided them as much as possible usually.
The apartment where you lived, tell us, how would you?
So the defense is going to ask why. If I was the prosecution, I might have asked. But I've also heard people say the prosecution wants to be careful what doors they open because that can give the defense room as well. And I do think, because we are also going to watch Brian Boone's testimony too, I think that's why they're not asking Brian Boone about his past with Sarah and her drinking, because that opens a whole other can of worms, and it may get certain evidence in without her having to prove self-defense first. And so I think the state is just being cautious. They have a strong case, in my opinion, not a lawyer, just a psychologist in Virginia, nonetheless.
You describe the walls that separated your
So
units.
yeah, I remember that my bedroom was like the front facing bedroom, and our walls shared a wall with where their staircase was. So like the way the apartments were laid out, we had a 1-story apartment, they had a 2-story apartment. So they had a staircase running right next to the walls next to like our bedrooms.
That's going to be significant later.
Would you ever have occasion to hear arguing and yelling going on inside of the defendant's apartment?
Yes, the walls were pretty thin. So if people were yelling, you definitely hear it.
And how often would you hear arguments or disagreements going on over there?
When I first moved in, it was it was at least like once a week, to the point that I started tuning them out. Like I got good enough at just like not listening to them. They argued very, very often.
Do you recall the evening of February 23rd, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, could you hear arguing going on in their unit?
Not late into the evening, earlier into the evening, probably like 7, 8 o'clock that evening, probably like earlier on, I could hear arguing.
And where were you inside of your apartment?
I would have been in my bedroom pretty much all night.
And your bedroom, just so that we can paint the picture, where would that would have been, on the first floor or the second floor?
We had a first floor apartment.
Okay, so all the units were, or all the bedrooms were on the first floor.
Yeah, like I was saying before, we had a 1-story apartment, and then they next door had like a 2-story townhouse. So we only had the 1 floor.
Understood. And at a certain point in the evening, did you hear a loud crashing sound?
Yeah, probably around 10:30, 11 o'clock that evening.
And can you describe that sound for us in more detail?
I mean, yeah, literally, like I said, at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, it's the way their staircase was set up. I could, my bedroom, the top of their staircase would have been like above my ceiling.
Trigger warning for this part, because we are going to find out information here that a lot of us suspected. And I didn't know how we suspected that George was possibly in the suitcase, and that somehow, likely Sarah, that the suitcase had come down the stairs. And he's not saying that that's what happened. He's saying he heard something loud come down the stairs that started above him and is going to come down. So, this part I thought was, and the state, I don't know if they're going to add it in later, because the state doesn't connect those dots at this point. They might wait until the medical examiner, because I think there's significant bruising to George's body, and that might fit with something like this happening. So,
Lane, and it ends next to where like my roommate's apartment was. So I could hear something start above me super loud and then fall away from me, like it was falling down the stairs.
Did this affect the walls that were between your two apartments?
Oh yeah, me and my roommate. I remember me and my roommate talking the next day about like we could literally like it shook both of our rooms.
Did you ever have occasion to talk with the defendant about what happened?
I never saw her after that. She would have, yeah. I never saw her after that happened.
No further questions.
Any cross-examination?
let's get into cross. He's the feisty one, but not in a bad way. I think he's really intelligent. He does math in his head faster than I can.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, you were asked by the state if you ever had any interactions with Sarah Boone or George Torres. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I think you said you tried to avoid them.
Yeah. I don't like drunk people, and they were drunk a lot, so I did not interact with them.
Do you remember this interaction with Sarah Boone in 2009 when you woke up and witnessed Sarah?
I would have been 9 years old in 2009.
I'm sorry, 2019. Good catch.
We got to go back. We got to, like, the ease that he does this is like that's where, like, it wasn't because it wasn't even like he just did it. He just corrected it. So just it is what it is. And I absolutely, so I have to go back. Let's play that part again.
Interaction
I'm gonna do it at regular speed.
with Sarah Boone in 2009 when you woke up and witnessed Sarah.
I would have been 9 years old in 2009.
I'm sorry, 2019. Good catch.
I saw this moment break Emily D. Baker. Like, so this moment, Emily D. Baker pauses it, and you just because it was perfect. Like, because he interrupted him, like, sir, I would have been 9 years old. I didn't know 2009 was even relevant to this case, but and I don't fault the lawyer. So y'all know I say things wrong all the time and not intentional. I Sarah Boone has ruined not intentional for me. I heard it so many times, but like it was so smooth. Like it wasn't confrontational. It was just like, sir, I was 9. Yeah. Okay. So good. He was born in 2000. Thank you. Thank you for doing. But yeah. So if he was born in 2000, but I see. I'm a 90s baby. No, 80s. Good gosh. Ooh, I'm almost made myself 10 years younger. No, I was born in the 80s, and so the math gets a little harder once you get into the 2000s. And the other day, I forgot how old I was, and so I had to do the math. And so, but I and this part, like, but to me, he's listening, he's paying attention, and he's answering the questions they ask. I thought that was the most important part from his testimony. Um, and then just because it was hilarious. So then we come back to court and Brian Boone. Let's watch Brian Boone's testimony. And I heard somebody put in the chat earlier that Brian escaped. Before we get to that part, let's do some housekeeping. All right. Welcome to new member, Teresa. Welcome, welcome. Let's see. Have you seen Sarah's behavior logs from jail? So I answered this in the chat and I wanted to answer it here too. So Sarah's behavior logs. So it's my understanding at some point she had hoarded, y'all correct me in the chat, it's like 80 slices of cheese, 75, I don't know. It was a lot of cheese. Sarah had hoarded a bunch of cheese and got in trouble for that. Sarah gets in trouble for stapling her uniform. So they give her a medium. She wants a small. And they have told her that it doesn't need to be figure flattering, that it just needs to fit. And she wants a small, and they give her a medium, and then she gets staples, and she staples the pants to make it slimmer. And she gets in trouble for that. And I think they said if it happened again, that she would have like a more formal write up. There's she normally refuses breakfast, and that's where I wonder if she uses the Pop Tarts, because it doesn't sound like she eats breakfast most mornings. And so I wonder if she gets Pop Tarts. I got that the whole Pop Tarts thing and her refusing breakfast. That's what brought it up for me. Tanika's 2 cents covers her those discipline write ups. All right. Thank you for the super chat. I've been so troubled since I saw the maintenance man testify. All my internal alarms and sirens went off. Did anyone see what I saw? So that's where I don't want to speculate about somebody that isn't on. So, addiction can look a lot of different ways, and a person can be at various levels of recovery. And these individuals are able to maintain employment. They are not the ones that are on trial. So I don't want to comment on a witness. But you did mention having experience with this, and so that's why you're sensitive to it. Kelly D, thank you for the gifted memberships. So we will likely have a members only live again. I might do it. We will see. And I'll always post it on the community tab. So I normally do them about once a month. I might do an extra one this month to just do some more rants about Sarah Boone. We will see. Um, did you notice the book on top of the pink binder in front of Owens? So, the title was The Battered Spouse Syndrome. Huh. And I wonder if that's there. So that's probably close enough for the jury to see it as well. So I did not see that there, and I did not know that was there. Okay. Did you notice the stuff at the bottom of the stairs? Wonder if there was damage to the wall. Okay, so I don't know if anyone is going to testify to that. Um, I I did not, so I did not look through all the pictures. So when they just were showing the pictures of the apartment and everything, and the body cam of the apartment, I skipped through that part. All right. So now let's get to Brian Boone. Let's go. I'm going to put it back up to 1.25. That's how my brain works.
Yes. Sir, good afternoon. You could be seated. After seated, if you could please state and spell your name for the record for us.
Brian Boone, Brian Boone.
Thank you, sir. You may inquire.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us how it is that you know the defendant?
I dated her for quite a while, and then we eventually got married.
When you say you dated her for quite a while, how long are we talking?
I met her in the late 90s, and I believe it was around 2005 when we got married.
Did you have any children as a result of your marriage with the defendant?
Yes, we had one son.
And how old is that son?
He is currently getting ready to turn 14.
Did your marriage with the defendant last?
And no, it did not.
And approximately when was it that you separated and began proceedings for divorce?
Probably 2017, I'm thinking maybe.
And so with Shani saying that Brian just seems like a happy person. But even because I remember Brian's like the interview the police did with him, I think he does nervous laughter, like, because I don't think he thought anything was funny. But I think he was just in awe of everything. And he was just like, I think he was just like, what? And he might have a dark sense of humor. I don't know him personally, so I don't know. But he seems like a decent person. He's the one, it's my understanding that I think he's filed for divorce, but I think Sarah had moved, was staying out all night drinking, and I thought her and George, I think I've heard somewhere, and I don't know if it's true, that she brought George to Brian's house at least one time. And so Brian obviously knew things were not going to work out, and he got out. Now, I don't think Sarah could control Brian. Now, he's a sweet guy. I think he just wanted her to be happy. He seemed to kind of go along with things. And to me, Brian seems like somebody that doesn't like conflict. And somebody that's very antagonistic can end up with somebody that's kind of a people pleaser. But then sometimes they don't stand up for themselves. So I am so glad that Brian has filed to not have to pay alimony. So glad. Because why should he be paying alimony while she sits in jail? That doesn't make any sense. Once this trial is complete, then a court can determine Sarah's parental rights. Because even if she's acquitted with what she's charged with and with what happened, so if she's claiming self-defense, all of that, he could still, so if for some reason Sarah was acquitted, Brian could still file for sole physical and legal custody of their child. And if I was a judge and all of this had happened, I mean, and they can't prejudice that in family court, but like I would have her do a parenting capacity evaluation because I have some questions about Sarah's safety with minors. My own personal thoughts. It sounds like emotionally, like it's my understanding that she drank a lot and she really didn't pay a lot of attention to her son. That's my understanding. Now, there might have been decent moments, but that's what I've heard. I don't know. Just putting it out there. Let's keep going.
And at that time, when was your divorce actually finalized?
Oh, maybe it was 2006. I think the divorce was 2017, I believe.
And after your divorce, what was your custody arrangement with your son that you had in common with the defendant?
She was supposed to have him on Mondays and Tuesdays. I would have him Wednesday, Thursdays, and then we'd alternate Friday through Sundays every other week.
So 1 week you would have 5 days with your son, and another week she would have 5 days with him.
Correct.
If you're looking for a lawyer to cover these trials, check out Uncivil Law. His coverage is really thorough. And I think he's providing some live coverage, some. And so, but Uncivil Law's channel has a lot of live coverage. And so, and from a lawyer's perspective.
And was this still the same custody arrangement in February of 2020?
Yes.
And in February of 2020, did you have, do you recall the events that occurred, I guess, first on the late evening of February 23rd, 2020?
On that evening, well, apparently Sarah called me at one point during the night.
Do you recall about what time she called you?
I think it was 11 something.
When you answered the phone, how did Sarah sound on the phone?
She sounded like she had been drinking, was pretty drunk.
Were you able to understand what the defendant was saying?
Somewhat, but she woke me up. I had work the next day. I was asleep when she called. She's done this before, calling me late at night, and generally I kind of just try to ignore it, so I wasn't really paying attention.
So I thought that was interesting. We knew that Sarah had called Brian at some point that night. He does not remember like what she, because he has to go to work the next day. So this was Sunday night going into Monday. And so she calls him drunk. And it sounds like he had learned how to tune her out. And he just went back to sleep. And he does not remember exactly what was said during that conversation.
Who was she living with at the time?
Jorge Torres?
When she called you late that evening, could you hear George in the background at all?
Not that I remember, no.
Did you pay much attention to this phone call?
No.
Now, the following morning, on February 24th, 2020, did you begin to call the defendant?
Yes, I did.
And approximately what time did you begin to call the defendant?
Okay. So I wanted to pause here because Zoe, I think Sarah uses everyone. I don't know anyone that Sarah doesn't use. So I think Sarah's relationships are transactional. So it's only what I can get from you. So I'm friends with this person because they have this commissary. And if I'm nice to them, then they give me this. Like, I think Sarah's relationships, they're likely transactional based on what I've heard, what I've seen, my experience with working with individuals like her. They're often transactional. And when you don't give them what they want, that's when things can get explosive.
I think it was like 11 o'clock or something.
And why was it that you were calling her?
Well, it was going to be Monday. I had him on Sunday and dropped him off at school, and I was calling to try to find out if she was going to be actually picking him up that day.
Why would you have a question about whether or not she was picking him up?
She wasn't generally very good about actually getting him on the day she was supposed to.
So it was not uncommon for you to have to remind her to pick him up or to make sure that she was going to pick him up?
Well, I mean, remind or just find out if she was going to, or if she was just going to give him over to me as what happened.
Do you remember at what time on February 24th you actually got in touch with the defendant?
It was like 12:30 or something.
And when you actually got in touch with her, what did she tell you on the phone?
That George was dead, and if I would come over.
Did she say what happened to him?
I don't remember if she told me then on the phone or when I got there, but she told me they had been playing hide and seek and that she fell asleep.
What did you advise her to do?
I told her she needed to call 911 and that I would come over as soon as I could.
And this is on your first phone call here at approximately 12:30
Yes.
on 2/24/20.
Yes.
Did she call you again while you were en route to her residence?
She did. She called to find out if I was still going to be coming over.
And when you spoke with her while you were en route, what, if anything, did you advise her?
I told her she needed to call 911 and told her I was on my way, but she needed to get somebody over there.
I'm number one.
How long did it take you to arrive at her residence?
From the first phone call or?
Yes, from the first one.
Well, I mean, I live a minute or two drive away, but I had to get my puppy. We had just gotten a puppy recently. I had to get him in his crate and stuff like that and put something on because I was working from home. And total time, maybe 10 minutes.
When you arrived at her apartment, tell us what she told you when you arrived.
George was dead, and once again I don't remember if she told me now or before that they had been playing hide and seek and she fell asleep. But I at that time told her again she needed to get 911 called to get somebody over there.
And so a lot of people, once again, had questions about why the why the prosecution didn't start to bring in Sarah's past. And we're still not sure if she's going to be able to do self-defense or not. If she's going to be able to introduce battered spouse, because it depends on what she says on the stand. It just depends on what she says. And when I was on Surviving the Survivor last night, one of the guests pointed out something I think that was good, that when we talk about normal, what a normal victim would do, what a normal person would do, I've worked with a range. I've worked with a lot of people that have been in emotionally, financially, and unsafe relationships for a variety of reasons, both men and women. And the way that she's behaving, to me, in my personal opinion, it seems like she minimizes her role and exponentially increases the other person's role. So if I was working with her and there was an incident where George broke the TV, I would want to know what happened, what was going on. Because to me, Sarah sounds like an instigator. She very much seems like somebody, and just because somebody instigates you does not mean you have the right to break their TV, to harm, like, no, like, just, you should not, like, we should be safe people. That's not how you resolve conflict. And so I'm personally not in relationship with antagonistic people, with people that are going to intentionally push my buttons, with people that love that back and forth, that love when I get mad, that want me to have that reaction. I'm not in relationship with people like that personally. It's just not my thing. And so Dr. Romani is a leading expert in narcissistic abuse, and she uses the term antagonistic because sometimes the word narcissistic gets thrown around a whole bunch, that things can get lost in the weeds. And antagonistic, you know how it feels to be antagonized. And so it doesn't matter if the person is meeting criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, so, or if they're gaslighting, but if they're being antagonistic, you know how that feels. And so down in the chat, so October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and often harm against men goes underreported. And men can be the victims of any type of harm. And so it can be verbal, it can be possessive, extremely jealous. It can be, a person can take away car keys, control medications, control how much money someone spends, make false allegations, threaten to leave or prevent you from seeing, if they report. And so, why men don't leave abusive relationships, and this is on helpguide.org. Regardless of gender, ending a relationship, even a harmful one, is not easy. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Ooh, that's way too small. I'm sorry about that, y'all. I've been reading here, but sometimes if the words are small, sometimes YouTube doesn't like it when some of the words are big. So sometimes they are. So okay, I might keep. I might. I might keep some of these words smaller. We'll just keep it like that. It is what it is. All right. But so anyone leaving a relationship can be difficult. And it becomes even harder if someone's been isolated from friends and family, threatened, manipulated, controlled, physically and emotionally harmed. The person might feel ashamed. There might be religious beliefs that dictate staying. There might be a lack of resources. So, excuse me, at this time, I don't think George was working at this. I could be wrong. I think at this time, I know that he had worked at like a mechanic shop or something. I don't know that he was working at this time. I think Sarah was the one with the apartment. She was the one that would likely pay for the alcohol and all those things. And so, all right, there can be denial. There can be wanting to protect other people involved in the relationship. And so this organization has some resources. I also wanted to share an international resource as well. So in the UK, there's an organization called Mankind. And I have not researched this organization. I do not, but this was when I was Googling, looking for resources, this was one that came up. And they have an initiative to support males that have been harmed in this way. They have an if this is free, so don't pay for stuff. So if this e-learning course, if it's not free, I wouldn't. I it costs 30 pounds. So I think you can find free resources on YouTube. But for male victims, they have resources on what you can do, the different types of harm, how this organization can help, a directory of services, how to spot the signs. Let's see this. Changes in behavior or demeanor, changes in physical appearance or clothing, changes in just how a person interacts. Some of the warning signs: seeming to be afraid or anxious to please the partner, going along with everything the partner says or does, checking in often with their partner or having to report exactly where they are and what they are doing, being belittled, humiliated, um, uh, if they're a father, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let's see. Um, okay, there can, because this doesn't apply to George. False accusations, temper, jealousy, possessiveness. The individual can have a low self esteem, even if they used to be confident in the past, seem depressed or anxious, or another word that YouTube doesn't like. They might start drinking or increase substance use or abuse. They might look unwell, lacking sleep, insomnia. And so I just thought this was a nice resource to share. And so I have that linked down in the description because from everything I've heard, it sounds like George was likely, I mean, like from everything I've heard, it sounds like he was likely the victim of some of this. And so someone asked a question and I saved it. Okay. And so this was a question: do we think he was already deceased when she called Brian? I don't know that we know. So I don't know that we know. And to me, Brian didn't do anything wrong. Um, yeah, because I think it was on Sarah, I think. My personal thoughts. And so purple is what we use to remember survivors in this month. And so thank you all for sharing that here in the chat. Okay. So the jury saw so then they're going to kind of go back and forth with the maintenance person and you know the defense is going to have some questions. I thought she was adorable, but that's just me. So Deputy Kayla Rodriguez, she is extremely because I think I forget if on one of the cameras she said this might turn into a big thing. Like I thought I overheard her say something. Y'all, I forgot to put my earrings on. Y'all know I always have on earrings. I forgot to put my earrings on, but it's okay. All right. And then oh, because we have body camera. And then I thought this witness at the end, I thought she was incredibly matter of fact as well. And I did just want to play the portion of her with the suitcase. Okay. Okay. Trigger warnings. This is where George died. So trigger warning for this part. Okay. It's smaller than what I had in my mind, and I think it's powerful for the jury to see this. I'm gonna keep it at 1.25 speed. It just helps my brain work.
What was pre-marked as A will be received into evidence without objection as States 11.
Your Honor, at this time, I ask for permission to publish State's A to the jury.
You may.
Can you open the inside of it?
Her genes are good because I think she's older than she looks. 'Cause she looks like she's like 20, 30. I think she has good genes. 'Cause she looks young, but I don't think she's as long as I don't think she's as young as she looks. Did you hear me mention triangulation? Did you hear me mention that? I covered that probably about maybe 10 minutes back. I'm not sure. We were able to talk about this today. I definitely think there was.
How easy is it to operate the zipper that closes the suitcase?
It was a little difficult.
I have no additional questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Are you also referred to as the medical examiner investigator as opposed to just crime scene investigator?
No, that is not my title.
Do you do reports that the crime or that the medical examiner necessarily relies upon in the process of doing the
So I wanted to play her cross examination because we are talking about likability and credibility today. Because I think this is going to be a part of this trial because the jury's going to have to decide what is like what weight to give different evidence. And to me, she was just very matter of fact. And I like the way that she handled cross. I really did.
autopsy and additional investigations?
You would have to ask them.
Who makes the decision at the scene as to what items will be photographed and what items will be taken into custody, and what items will necessarily be tested or analyzed?
That's a collaborative effort between the crime scene investigator and the lead detective while on scene.
That would be yourself, and who was the lead detective?
The lead detective was Chelsea Kepsel.
Now, you authored a report in this matter, did you not?
Yes,
And that report was utilized, if you in fact know, by the medical examiner in developing her autopsy report, was it not?
I do not know.
In your report, did you advise the medical or whomever might read your report that in fact the body had been removed from the suitcase by first offenders or first responders?
No, I don't believe so.
And we know that you have capacity to do DNA analysis, correct?
No, we process DNA and or collect swabs for DNA, and then that's submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for conventional DNA analysis.
You did that with a sample from the inside of Sarah Boone's mouth.
Her
He's trying to get at the fact that there was blood in the suitcase and they didn't test it. But what? So, because I think Owens in his opening, he talked about reasonable doubt. And it's interesting to talk about reasonable doubt to me. I'm not a lawyer, y'all. in a self-defense click because she's saying, I did the thing. From Owens's opening, I restricted him in the suitcase because I was afraid for my life. But then I went upstairs and went to sleep and thought he could get out. Okay. Okay. But okay. And it was likely his blood. They're gonna go there, and the defense is trying. The defense is trying.
Buccal swabs were submitted to the FDLE.
And who made that decision?
The detective and I.
Who made the decision not to bother to do a DNA analysis on the blood from the items within the suitcase or the suitcase itself?
That was a discussion between the detective and I.
And you chose not to do that.
No, we did not.
You assumed that the blood inside the suitcase belonged to George Torres, correct?
There was blood observed in the suitcase.
But you don't know who that belonged to because you didn't bother to analyze it or have it analyzed, correct?
The blood was not tested.
Now, state's exhibit.
I think she has testified a lot, or like whoever trained her how to testify, because I like the way. So the blood in the suitcase, you don't know if it was George's blood. There was blood in the suitcase. You don't know who it belonged to. The blood was not tested. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't know. Like, she was so matter of fact, and I absolutely, and she's not getting like visibly agitated or irritated with the redundance of these questions. Like, I think she's doing a phenomenal job.
Exhibit B of the back. You took that into evidence. Was that again a collaborative decision by yourself and the lead detective?
Yes.
And what efforts did you make to have the bat analyzed, given the fact that it was apparently evidence?
It was just collected as evidence from the scene.
Did you advise either the lead detective or anybody else involved with this investigation that there may be?
If anyone wants to know how to gray rock, so when we talk about gray rock, so with an individual with narcissistic traits, they want a reaction from you. They want to see you react. And she is doing gray rock. Now, I don't know that she's intentionally doing this. Does that make sense? Like, I think she is she's a really great witness. I thought she testified really well, but she's just sticking to the facts. Like, it is what it is. Like, she's having no emotion at all. Just like the blood was not tested. Just like, and she's not admitting that it was wrong or that it was anyone's fault or whose decision it was to test it or not test it. The blood was not tested. And there's no emotion. So that would be gray rock. Yellow rock, you give just a little bit of emotion just to say, I see you're upset. Maybe we can talk about this another day. But what you don't want to do is if somebody escalates, you don't want to escalate with them. That's always going to cause a worse reaction. It just is. My camera is doing funny stuff. I'm going to put it back where I want it. There we go. All right. Let's go. Let's keep going.
Matters that could be analyzed when analyzing the bat that would help or assist in the investigation of this matter?
It's my job to do the documentation and the collection of evidence.
Well, you said it was a collaborative effort between yourself and the lead detective. So did you participate in that decision?
We chose to collect the bat and put it into evidence.
So there was a fiber analysis done on the bat to determine whether or not it was used to strike George Torres when he was in the suitcase. Was there not?
Pardon?
In fact, there was not, was there? There was no effort to analyze the bat.
Jack, I don't believe the witness had an opportunity to answer the question.
Sustained.
Sorry. Please,
Can you repeat the question?
if I can remember it, I will. Do you know that there was any effort made in this particular investigation, the investigation of Sarah Boone, to analyze the bat for fibers?
No, there was not.
And why was that not done?
It was not done.
You indicated that you had some interaction with Ms. Boone. Is that correct?
I collected her buccal swabs.
Did you speak with her?
In collecting her buccal swabs, yes.
Did you speak to any other witnesses?
No.
Did you make any determination of other matters that might be of import or evidentiary value when you were going through the house and taking photographs and documenting the interior of the townhouse?
I think you'll have to be more specific.
Well, how many pictures of the child's bedroom did we see?
Here today,
Yes, ma'am.
we saw the entrance to the bedroom as well as a photograph of the interior of the bedroom.
What was the evidentiary value of that?
It's my job to photograph and document while on scene. So the rooms in the upstairs were photographed and documented.
Did you photograph holes in the wall, possibly made by the victim?
I don't recall photographing holes in the wall, no.
Did you take photographs of items within the house or throughout the house that may have depicted incidents of prior violence?
You'll have to be more specific.
How about bloody pillowcases?
Because also incidents of prior violence could be the reason we're all here in court today. Like, that could be an incident of prior violence. So that's why I think she said he'll have to be more specific. I'm going to share about Gray Rock as soon as we're done with her cross.
Did you make any effort to collect and analyze pillowcases of the rooms that you were photographing?
No.
Who made, you have significant experience with zippers?
I use zippers regularly, yes.
You have significant experience with zippers. I use, so I do think the suitcase is probably going to go back to the jury room. I do believe the jury is probably going to get to examine the suitcase. They are probably going to try to zip it themselves. I'm taking a breath because this is hard. The suitcase, the zipper was broken, and it's my understanding that there was like a paper clip or something. There was something on it to zip and unzip, so it probably was difficult to zip and unzip that suitcase. And the jury is going to have that, and they're going to have Sarah's testimony. And I personally don't think that's going to go well. And we will see.
Enough to have an opinion as to whether or not a zipper is stuck or not.
Is what? Sorry?
You testified on direct that the zipper was a little tight.
Just that it was difficult without the zipper pulls to use the zipper.
And that was your opinion.
Yes, from opening the suitcase here today.
Today, you only tested it today?
Pardon?
You only today have for the first time tested the ability to pull open the zipper on the suitcase?
No, I'm saying it was difficult today.
A redirect examination.
Let's talk about Gray Rock. All right. All right. Want to see how the size of this? I will make it a little bigger. Okay. Gray Rock method is where you deliberately act unresponsive or unengaged so that a harmful person will lose interest in you. I heard about this on TikTok. Okay. So back in 2020, I think, when I was on TikTok, maybe 2021. So I never learned about gray rocking in school or like in class. I did take one of Dr. Ramani's trainings last year, and I hope to take another training with her. Oh, so earlier this year. It wasn't last year. It was back in, I think, March. And then next year, I hope to take another training with her too. So anyone that has experience with antagonistic, difficult people, they will say that sometimes the harmful person, they thrive on your emotions and drama in the relationship. And the way that I like to think about that is, so for me, my brain is happy and peaceful when everything is calm. But there are some people that live in such chaos and thrive in chaos that when everything is calm, they almost get anxious. Like they almost get like what's going to happen. And I have a lot of compassion for that because I work with people with borderline personality disorder. I work with children of individuals that likely have some narcissistic features. And our goal in that treatment is to help them learn how to increase their ability to be mindful and in the moment. So that's dialectical behavior therapy. It is a type of skills-based treatment that is incredibly helpful to teach people how to just sit and be in the moment, to not judge, to not go off the perception I immediately have, and that feelings are not facts. So just because I feel this does not mean that it's true, but I don't have to invalidate that feeling, because cognitive behavior therapy sometimes invalidates it, where it's like, oh, I was out at the park and I heard a weird noise and I got fearful, but there was nothing there, so I shouldn't be afraid. Well, that can feel invalidating sometimes. And so if I've had a negative experience at a park, it would make sense that when I'm there, that okay, that fear center might get activated, but then I use my surroundings and my thinking brain to balance the two. And so in dialectical behavior therapy, you learn how to walk the middle path and how to balance emotions and cognitions. But this term, it's called gray rocking, when you act indifferent and don't show your emotions so that the other person loses interest and they stop bothering you, so that there isn't this constant back and forth. If they want the last word, let them have it. It is what it is. Using the gray rock method might look like avoiding eye contact, giving short answers, focusing on things, focusing on other things when talking to the person. And sometimes gray rocking can make the person more mad. And so if that happens, that's where you want to be talking with safe people. That's where you want to have support, because sometimes doing this, if someone is in an unsafe situation, it might agitate the other person because they're doing something different. And so so this is where each person's situation can be different. And so it's a strategy to protect yourself from harmful people. The method theorizes that when dealing with emotionally harmful, toxic, narcissistic people, withholding your reaction can put a stop to their behavior, because a reaction can be reinforcing to them. And so negative attention is still attention. And so withholding that reaction can sometimes make it so that things kind of the argument ends sooner. However, right after anger and escalation, you may get the behavior you want if you so like sometimes there can be issues that come up with gray rocking. All right. Is it always effective? It won't work in every situation. And so make sure to have supports. All right. So I will put this link over in the comments. If people watch later and they need this, please let me know. All right. And so let's recenter this. Let's do this one and then recenter this one. Y'all know my camera. It's not, there we go. She did it. Okay. Does anyone know why there are 4 people behind the judge? So the lawyer, said that they might be students, or they might be, because he does mock trials, but we're not sure. We're not sure who those individuals behind the judge are. They are likely like some judicial assistants or something, but I don't think we know, but I could be wrong. All right. And sometimes when you're a witness, it's better to ask them to repeat the question than to think you know what the question was. And so sometimes like, wait a minute, what was, can you repeat the question? And sometimes the individual does forget what the question was. And so, all right. Okay. And so I heard the lawyer say that's what it might be as well. Let me know if y'all have any questions. Next week, y'all, I have some time in my schedule. So it is my plan to stream. Let me pull up next week. Ooh, y'all. I can stream from 10 a.m. to like 2 p.m. Be coverage. So we can do from 10 to 2 on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we can do from 12 to 4. 12 to 4. And then on Thursday, I have some breaks. And so I will post my availability. Because of course, if I have a client that needs to be seen, then I will move this around. But this is my current, what I believe I'll be able to do next week. Because this trial is moving at lightning speed and I love it. So I don't like it when trials go slow. I think I mentioned that at the beginning, because it's just, it gets painful. The Karen Reed trial was so painful to watch. It was super duper painful. And so, welcome to new members. There are a few member only videos. And so make sure to take a look at the member section to see anything there. So Tanika's 2 cents, did you find her channel? And I'll have to do something where I can link that. But if you type it into Google, Sarah Boone, and it's Tanika, you're spelling, so it's Tanika. So Tanika. If you search it into YouTube, her channel will come right up. We are not twins. We do not know each other in real life. I would love to stream with you, Tanika, and also with Misha. And anyone that wants to collaborate, my DMs on Instagram are open. I take a breath with this one. How can Sarah be the battered? So I do think George put his hands on her. I do. I do think some things resulted in injuries to her. I do. I do think their relationship was toxic. I think when they drank, I think they could get aggressive. She would call the police on him. I wonder what he didn't call the police on, because one time on she called the police on him, and the police saw marks on him where she had allegedly choked him, and she was the one that ended up getting arrested. And I do believe they have it. They have an audio recording or something, or they have a video. They have something of her telling him how to get those charges dropped. So I feel like this is a case of mutual harm. I don't think George was a saint. I think he deserved to live. I don't think what he did was a death sentence. And for it to be so reckless, careless, this was torture. This was painful. This is, oh, like, mm, we, you shouldn't do stuff like that. Like, those are the words that I have. Um, I like that y'all get snarky in the chat. Is there any official experience with zippers? I am certified in opening and closing zippers. Good gosh, it's so silly. I'm just making sure. Okay. And so, ooh, okay. And then Lori again. She's the one with the bat. She's the one with all the power. I don't know that he was the one. To me, he could have had a good case for battered partner syndrome, to me. But I do think it was mutual. I think they went back and forth. And that's based on Brian Boone saying that when she would drink, she would like start scratch, like she would get aggressive with him. And he's just a bigger, like he was able to hold her off, and he could just kind of like and it was fine. George was 5'2", 103 pounds. And okay. Ugh. Nice. Witness, I love seeing you in other chats. And so thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions. I will go back and add timestamps later. Good. And Animal Cookie says CBT works for them, and I love that. I love it, love it. So I do use I use CBT, but I add validation. So I work a lot with people where understanding where the emotion or thought is coming from is helpful. And so that's why I did that. And it's dialectical behavior therapy. If somebody ever wants to check it out, eye movement desensitization reprocessing is a trauma treatment. It can also work for anxiety and some other things like that. And so I've talked about that here on my channel too. I'm getting there. I appreciate you all being here, all 1,000 of you. Make sure to like the video. If you like content like this, make sure to also Judge K mentioned that they're students. That's cool. So I missed that part. So I fast forward when things start to get like boring, when I'm not getting dopamine from it, I skip it. That's how I missed the portion of the prosecution's opening where they went over those text messages, the sound was so horrific. I totally missed that part. I just did. Somebody in the comments mentioned it, and I went back and listened to it again. All right. Y'all, I'm like 5 minutes behind on the chat. I'm getting there. Welcome. And so for some people, gray rocking does not work. And that's where sometimes if I'm around someone who drinks too much and they start drinking, I might leave. Like that might be the boundary that I set for myself. And if they come over to my house, I might not have alcohol available. If they bring alcohol with them, I might meet them somewhere. But there are ways to set boundaries with people. And so yes. So just so you know, I don't wake up until 7:20 a.m. Eastern. So so I don't know what time zone you're in, but like, and when my alarm does go off at 7:20 a.m., like I'm checking my, my YouTube studio, and my day doesn't start until so my kiddo, think he's old enough, he gets himself breakfast in the morning, and then I make sure that he gets his, that we do morning routine, and I give him his vitamins and all that good stuff. But yeah, I never plan to stream that early in the morning. Thank you for the support. um and whoa. Yeah, so reporting live from my sofa, I sometimes watch his stream. He is hilarious. Hilarious. I love his sense of humor. It is phenomenal. Um and so y'all will find me all over these YouTube streets, okay? And you'll also find me in the, you know, listening to phone calls from prison. I don't always comment, but I have went all the way down the Wade wives and all of that. I've went all the way down that rabbit hole, and I keep listening every time a new one comes out because it just gets worse and worse. And so yes. All right. Make sure to watch something funny. If you do like Love is Blind, this season of Love is Blind, season 7, it is just throw away the whole season. I'm probably going to do like a fun episode on just talking about that season and why that show. They're calling it love, but they're not really creating love, in my opinion. And just so I want to give some education on that, and I'll do that on a different stream. All right. Oh, y'all all still stayed. I cannot believe this. All right. Let's see. Watching from South Africa. Welcome, welcome. Well, hopefully we can all believe that George 7:20 is it's 7:20. Like my alarm is set for 7:20. So 7:30 would be too late. 7 a.m. So 7:20. So I used to have, my son has a alarm clock because so he can't wake me up before 7:20 unless it's an emergency. So that's why he feeds himself at 7 a.m. because he wakes up around 7 a.m. and he goes downstairs and he grabs a yogurt, and and so he's not using he's not using the microwave or toaster or any of those. Like I have breakfast set out for him and he grabs it in the morning. But sleep is how I thrive. And so I do not do early mornings unless I'm traveling, unless I'm going somewhere, because then I don't sleep. Paul is awesome. I forgot that was his name. So I y'all know I'm bad with names. Oh, Tanika, we are twins. We really are twins. uh, yeah. And so and y'all might have noticed I muted myself earlier because at 3 p.m. he was allowed to go downstairs and start playing his Nintendo Switch. And so we had a little chat. Yes. So I was in the chat over on Emily D. Baker. Okay. Do you practice mindfulness without external sources of dopamine? I've been thinking of trying that. So I don't know what you mean by external sources of dopamine. So the way I practice mindfulness is like going for a mindful walk. Or so I don't just like sit in silence. That's not how my brain works. I like sitting and listening to something. So I will listen to music. I will I do this program called Supernatural on the Oculus, not sponsored. I get nothing for saying it. So working out is a mindful thing. And what it does is I'm not paying attention to emails or like I'm not thinking about anything else. I am 100% in the moment. So when I think of mindfulness, I think of being fully in that moment. So is my mind full? Like, is my mind full of like the day? So my mind stays pretty like but or am I being mindful in this moment? Like, am I present in this moment? And so when I'm here streaming, I try to practice mindfulness in my day-to-day things. When I'm meeting with a client, I try to be present with them in that session and not thinking about like the next session or I don't know. I actively practice mindfulness. And so Paul is reporting from my sofa. If you've let me see what his channel reporting from my sofa. I feel like that's what his channel name is. Yeah, reporting live from my sofa. I believe that's who y'all are talking. Oopsie. Sorry about that. His thing started playing. Ooh, HST. Is that Hawaii? I don't know. I'm special. The Wade Wives stuff is ooh, and we did. So I did a video talking about hybristophilia and why people are so enamored as I've listened to those calls. And I do hope that the people that were in love with him, I do hope that they go back and listen to them because you can hear the manipulation, control. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. I sounded like Paul when I said that, I think. Ridiculous. Paul is super sassy. I'm here for it. Love on the Spectrum. I haven't Is there a new season? Is there a new season out? So I have watched season 1 and 2. I don't know if there is a new season out yet, but I definitely love that show. Oh, you heard of me because of Paul. That's so sweet. That's super cool. Uh, okay. I told you. So if y'all can tell where the comments are, that's how far behind I am. Okay. I don't think we have any more questions. Oh, question. That right when I say that, I find a question. Do you think the phone call to to George from his family was enough to send Sarah off the rip? No. Uh, I still think that I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I stand with everything after hearing about the text messages of her saying she was going to get rid of him. It seems like she didn't like there was contempt that she had for him. What she calls love, if that's your love, hate me. Like I don't want that kind of love. I think she thought he was cheating on her, and I don't know for her if cheating would be him talking with his ex about co-parenting his daughter or something. Like I don't know what her idea of cheating or being unfaithful. I don't know what that was. And I don't trust Sarah's perception of events. I just don't. And I there's a part of me that wants to believe that it was an accident and that she isn't that callous and sadistic. And then there's another part of me that's just like, I don't know. We don't know what happened. And if I can stream it live, I will. Yeah, so that's she says it in the video. She says, "For everything you've done for me, to me, for everything you've done to me." She says, "This is for cheating on me." Like she says that in the video. When she is demeaning, humiliating, berating, when she is, to me, verbally abusing him while he's in that suitcase. When she's doing all of that and he's saying, "Babe, Sarah," like and to me, he never sounds angry. He sounds desperate. "Let me out." And she didn't. And ugh. And she's gonna admit to hitting his hand with the bat. I personally feel her explanation of what happened with the bat, I think she likely I think there was more to the bat than just hitting his hand. I personally feel that way. I don't know that that's true. I think she knew there was an injury to his hand, and that's where we're coming up with that whole part. Um, so if you haven't seen, uh, Dr. John from Hidden True Crime. He did a video recently reviewing Sarah Boone's interrogation. I haven't made it through all of it yet. I've like skimmed through portions of it because I've already watched the interrogation. I don't want to watch that again. But I skimmed through portions of it, and I really trust his analysis. He is a forensic psychiatrist because I am a clinical psychologist. Sorry, I said that before. He is a forensic psychologist. I am a clinical psychologist. So the work I do is about treatment. I'm focused on helping people. Forensic psychologists know about the law as well and applying psychology with the law. And I think it's super cool. So the bingo card, it is on my community tab. So if you go to my page and then you click on community, it is right there. I think I can, so let me go ahead and share my screen one more time. I will show you exactly where it is. Present, share screen. I also speak to myself out loud. It's a whole thing. All right. So if you go to community, so we're at home and this is us. Okay. But if you click on community, scroll down, you gotta scroll. So this is the Surviving the Survivor. If you haven't seen that, that is there. And then right here. So, and there's a Canva link, and then you can click here and you can print them, I believe. Like I think because I put all 5 of them here, you can also click a Canva link for them as well. Okay. So that's that. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. I will see y'all on Monday, 10 a.m. And then I will see y'all on Tuesday. It looks like Wednesday, I have a full day, so I won't be able to see y'all on Wednesday, but then I will be back Thursday and Friday because I think the defense said Sarah might be getting on the might be getting on the stand next week. So possibly next week. So we will see. We will see what happens. But I appreciate you all. Bye.